Sales don't come first. Confidence does. When you are confidently confident of who you are, that's when your movement becomes visible, when your visibility becomes valuable, and when you begin to start truly making the impact on lives that you were meant to make. And I know you want to do that. Let's talk about that today. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I'm a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 40 books and counting. Over the course of literally my whole life, the 59 years I've been alive, I was born in media. I've spent 40 years running a marketing company, and I'm here today to help you be able to truly, really, completely, massively, truly, madly, deeply, if you want to quote the song, be visible and valuable to the people that you're meant to serve, the people that you know you want to make an impact on their lives. You're there. You are the one who is absolutely going to make the difference in their life. And I'm here to help show you what visibility truly looks like, not some of the, blame it on you, falsehoods, things that are all too often pushed at us, but just the real, just this is how it works. This is how you can do it. And this is the things that you can do to be vulnerable, visible, and valuable. I love those three V's because when we're vulnerable, we make an impact in people's lives. We can identify, people can identify with us. When with that vulnerability, we have something that's valuable. So it isn't just a matter of we're just a bleeding heart, we're just bleeding all over the place and we're just sharing all of our ick. And, by the time people are done talking to us, they're, wishing it had been over sooner. I know we've all had conversations with people like that too. Not talking about that kind of a situation. I am talking about the kind of person who is okay telling you about the mistakes they've made and what they learned from that situation. I'm talking about the kind of person who knows their stuff well enough that they can peel back the curtain and be like, ta-da, here we are behind the curtains today to show you absolutely, exactly, totally, clearly, completely what works and what doesn't and why. One of the best questions you can ask somebody, and I'm a big proponent of having coaches in your life. And one of the biggest questions you can ask somebody who you're considering to be a coach for you is why? Can you explain to me why that works? Can you give me some examples of times when you've done that and how it's worked? Okay. That's so important because there are so many coaches that are teaching things and their why is things like, hey, Bobby, glad to have you here with us. Their why is things like, well, that's what everybody else is doing. Well, that's what ChatGPT told me. Well, in the research I've done, I've found this. The why should be really, really simple. I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, many years ago, this was probably 2015 or so. So 10, 11 years ago. All right. I was talking with a coach and I asked them, because browsers have changed a little bit, but for the most part, if you type in the whole entire domain name and you don't put .com at the end of it, all right, browsers are designed that they're going to typically default to .com, sort of. Okay, now that's changed a little bit because these days Google, unless you specifically put the .com, and sometimes even unless you specifically put the HTTP in front of it, they want to default to their search engine because they want you to use their search engine still, especially in these AI days. Okay, but especially back then, all of the browsers, if you typed in Steve Kidd, okay, my domain name, by the way, to get to my calendar is Ask Steve Kidd. If you went to Steve Kidd, you'd go to, I don't know, probably Jason Kidd's dad or something else, okay? But if you type in Ask Steve Kidd, it's going to typically default to askstevekidd.com, which, by the way, would go directly to my calendar, and you could hop on and schedule a time to talk to me. You're totally fine doing that. I wasn't intending to pitch you, but it was a great time too. Okay. And I asked him, it's like, because for a while there, .tv was really huge. People were setting up their YouTube channels, and then they were creating their own television stations, your own multimedia television and radio and blah, 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 and a lot of stuff. And I believe in the holistic 360 approach and coming at people from multiple different angles and having merchandise and a book and a video and a podcast. And, the more places that you can show up, that people can find you, the better. Okay. It's one of the reasons why I do these lives every day. And I do them across multiple social medias so that in many, many, many different places, people can see me. Okay. And they get used to seeing my bright, smiley face and, getting information from me. Okay. But I was asking them, why would we then want to register a .tv domain versus just using .com when the browser is going to default to .com if you don't own .com? Now, if you own .com and then you own .tv, it makes total sense. But if you don't, and you're going and you're buying, especially somebody that's your competitors, which this person was teaching, your competitors .tv. So now you have, and don't try to do this because, most of the big companies will slam you down, and they'll make you either give them the website or shut down your website. But if you were to register Walmart.tv, okay, like I said, don't do it. It won't work. You will end up in legal trouble. All right. But a lot of people were doing that with, like SteveKidd.tv. You're like, Steve Kidd, he's a big name. So I'm going to do that, or my TV or my radio show, Thriving Entrepreneur, which is wehelpyouthrive.com. Anyway, they were buying those up. And the problem is that the browser was defaulting to .com. I was trying to both understand the why behind it, as well as I was trying to figure out whether this was going to be the right coach for me or not. And the person replied back and they said, well, that's what everybody does. That was their response. That's what everybody does. Well, that doesn't work. You need to have that momentum and that trust. You need to understand and know and be able to tell people why and specifically how. You need to be able to pull back the curtain and go, here's exactly what's happening. Here's how we make the donuts. It's not just that they're delicious and they're totally not good for you and all those kind of things. Here's what's in them. That's why a lot of companies have made fortunes off of simple ingredients. We have just these basic simple ingredients and we don't have anything in our ingredient pack that is a word that you can't pronounce or a substance that you don't know what it is. Same thing should be true in your visibility. You want that trust. Okay. So how do we build trust? We build it first and foremost by doing things, by momentum, by being seen, being heard, being visible and valuable. Okay. By using our vulnerability. In other words, and another angle of what I've been talking about is, an easy vulnerability is to be able to use the phrase, I don't know. Let me find out for you. People will respect the heck out of you saying, hey, I really don't know, but I'm going to find out for you and I'll get back to you. Okay. That's not saying that, that should be your answer to everything. If you constantly are just saying, hey, I don't know, well, then, you're probably not the expert they're looking for. But if they ask you something that's, sideline of a couple of degrees off of what you really do, and they come up with a question and you don't know an answer, be vulnerable enough to just say, hey, I don't know. People will respect the heck out of you. Vulnerable, visible, and valuable. So you come out in truth. You're willing to share all of the good, the bad, and the ugly, all the stuff, and do it. Okay. And that openness, that genuineness, that vulnerability, that begins to create momentum. Momentum comes more than anything from being visible, being where people can see you. If you want to be visible, and I've said this so many times, and it's kind of tongue in cheek, but it's also true. If you want to be visible, you've got to be visible. If you want to be seen, you've got to be seen. You've got to be where the people are. We've created a culture of come to me, and that never works. We've got to go where the people are. Okay? We've got to be available where they are for them to be able to see our stuff. That's why I love in person speaking. I love going to where somebody is and being able to say, hey, I'm here, and I want to meet you, get to know you, and really share those things with you about who you are and what you do in this world to make that difference in this world. That seeing them and being seen, that movement, all of that builds the trust. You've got to have the trust long before you're going to have the sale. We buy from people that we know, like, and trust. I know there's lots of people that are trying to get you to create the perfect landing page so that if you just only, I was talking to a friend of mine that, her expertise actually is Facebook ads. And she would be the first one to tell you, that she can demystify it and turn it into something that with some work and some effort, it can be predictable versus being a slot machine. You're just gambling your money and hoping that it comes out. But she said one of the things that she loves promoting the most is a webinar, something that first has been done a lot live and has proven that it works and it converts. Then automate it versus some kind of magical automated system where you create a landing page and it sends them to a webinar, and the webinar is whiz bang magical, and it sends them to the next page, and boom, they send $5,000 to you because you're just so amazing. It just doesn't work that way. People that already know, like, and trust you, absolutely, they're craving what you have to say. And if you have a huge following, if you're like my friend Molly Mahoney and you have several hundreds of thousands of people and you're speaking on stage, once to twice every single month in front of groups of 300 to 500 people, you've got that know, like, and trust. And when you make the post and you say, hey, I'm going to be doing a teaching on Saturday about XYZ, are you interested? There's several 100,000 people that are like, well, yeah, here's the thing. Out of the several 100,000 people that know, like, and trust her, in any given one of those, she'll have a couple of thousand people. Now, don't in any way think that I'm pish-poshing a couple of thousand people. That's amazing. Okay. And out of that, she's had, products that she's brought out to market and made $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 over the course of a week because she built the following. Now, I've known Molly for, oh gosh, probably 10, 11, 12 years now, right? And her and I were actually literally at our first event, each of us, it was the first time we had been at that particular person's event. And we, did some exercises and stuff that are teachings that the person running the event did. And we've been friends ever since. Molly then spent the next, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, building things and doing some things that were really hitting and some that really weren't. And now she's built it to the point where, she can drop things and she's very much in demand. And, huge companies are like, hey, Molly, would you, come and speak at our great big giant international thing? Okay. Didn't start out there. She didn't just wake up one morning and go, hey, I'm a professional performer and I've been on stage for the last 15 years of my life. Therefore, people should pay me $100,000 to come stand on their stage. No, she did it little by little by little. She created the momentum. And the more momentum that she's gotten, The same thing's true with the lives that we do here. The more times that I do it, the more people, that I get. I did lives forever that had 0 listeners on it. And StreamYard changed things and let me go out as both horizontal and vertical, or landscape and portrait, however you want to look at it. And that's made a huge difference. And yeah, we get a lot of people that hop on and hop back off, and that's totally fine. And we get a ton of people that watch it afterwards, and that's great too. Momentum. The movement, the more it becomes visible, the more the trust is formed. And it just builds naturally out of that visibility. More than anything, that's where having a book, let me reach over here. I'm going to pull out a book. Having a book. Okay. You've got your book. And it probably has on the back, it probably has your bright, shiny face, on it. It might even have it on the front. That's why it creates that visibility and begins to build that momentum better than anything else. But then the book has to be continually being made visible. You got to continue to do the things so that people know it's there. They like it, they trust you, and they do the stuff. If you're ready to be visible and vulnerable and valuable and make a difference and get people's trust in motion, then go ahead and DM or comment the word review. Let's talk. Let's talk about how you can be visible and valuable, how you can up-level yourself in ways like you've never ever thought about. Because people's trust comes when they see somebody that they know and like, and they see that that person's doing things in the world and they want to be part of it too. People trust what's already moving. I'm so grateful to have spent time here with you today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about restored control, not hoping anymore, but actually steering a moving vessel. We want to talk about that more tomorrow. And until then, I hope you're happy. Until we're done.